Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Oh, it seems to be louder than when we were praying. So this is good now. All right. All right, so alhamdulillah, we're here, gathered here again for another Saturday night lecture. The thing I wanted to discuss tonight was, as human beings, of course, let's say the human being in Arabic, we call it insan. And it's insan, it's known as insan because we're forgetful creatures. Like, look at our own father, Adam alayhi salam, when he fell into that sin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told him, you can do whatever it is that you wish in Jannah. Just don't eat from that one tree. That was it. Do whatever you wish with your wife. Live here. The two of you do whatever you wish. Just don't eat from that one tree. Now, of course, it was because our father, Adam alayhi salam, had forgotten this command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, the shaitan was able to entice him, stir up his desires and curiosity, and then he eventually fell into this sin and ate from the forbidden tree. So insan is forgetful. This is the nature of Bani Adam. And we were mentioning, I think on Wednesday, even the best of the huffaz, even we find, let's say, these qurra that we love to listen to all over the world, world-renowned Quran scholars and reciters. Sometimes they also forget an ayah here and there when they're leading prayer, right? This is normal. This is normal for human beings to forget. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ emphasized, or Allah Himself throughout the Quran, certain concepts were repeated over and over again, right? Because we're forgetful. Maybe we started reading the Quran, you found certain stories of Musa alayhi salam and Bani Israel and Surah Al-Baqarah. By the time you came to, Surah A'raf, Allah mentioned that similar story again, and so on and so forth, right? So throughout the Quran, you also find certain incidents, certain stories, especially concepts that are very important for us, are continuously repeated throughout the Quran. So that maybe we read in one surah, we forgot, now read it in another surah, we remember, right? So man by nature, we are forgetful. And it's because of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to remind one another. And the Prophet ﷺ has commanded us to remind one another. And when we forget, we will make mistakes. Just like our father Adam alayhi salam. He fell into that mistake simply because he forgot the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So forgetfulness is something, even though it's very minor, it's something natural for human beings to do. But still, we have to be cautious. Oh, I forgot, it's okay, or I have, forgetful nature, whatever it is, we don't work on ourselves. This is bad. Because today you might forget something simple, which is not a sin. Just a regular mistake. Where's your car keys? You can't find it, right? Start yelling at your wife or children. Don't do that, right? But whatever the case, it starts with simple dunya issues, and then you might see, it happens to all of us. We're in salah, we forget. Did we pray 3 rak'at or did we pray 4 rak'at? Right? And then we have to make sujood as-sahw. It happens. It happens to the best of the people because man is forgetful in nature. And we have to control ourselves. We have to correct ourselves and continuously be in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the fact that we are forgetful. Just like, let's say, when a body gets sick, And many of us have different types of health problems. If you just keep on ignoring it, it's just your health is going to get worse and worse and worse. So it's the same thing with the human mind or the heart. We're forgetful creatures, and you just let it be, you're eventually going to forget, as what happens to these mushrikun, these people who deny Allah's existence. They forget Allah totally, right? So you don't want that to happen. So the diseases of the heart are worse than the diseases of the body. The diseases of the body, whether you have fever, something simple like fever, or a terminal illness, and different illnesses are of different levels of pain and different restrictions. Those who suffer from it, they know what type of patience and effort they need. However, when you think about it, in terms comparing your akhirah life with your dunya life, the pain in the body is nothing, or the disease of the body is nothing compared to losing your akhirah. This life, 70, 80, 90 years old. That's how long, most people live, 60 to 70 years old. And this is the average age that the Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith about his ummah, that would be the average age, right? So you see people, most Muslims, they're living from 60 to 70 years old, right? Most of us. So, but the akhirah, this is eternal. There's no time limit. It's forever and ever and ever. To enjoy that limitless life, your heart has to remain healthy and connected to the religion. So this is why the ulama, past and present, they always say that the disease of the heart is far, far worse. And disease of the heart, of course, cholesterol is bad, but that's not what they're referring to. It means the heart that is astray from Allah's path. It does not recognize Sirat al-Mustaqim. It is covered with lusts and desires that draw this person away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told us in the Quran in Surah Al Imran that وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, and let there arise a group of you calling others to al-khair, to that which is good. So Allah has commanded that certain groups of people, they have to rise up, meaning they have to take the responsibility to يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, to call the rest of humanity to that which is good. This is a responsibility on certain individuals. In other terms, as you all know, in Islam, we have something that is fard ayn, an individual obligation, like your 5 daily prayers, fasting in Ramadan, and giving charity. And then you have something called fard kifaya, communal obligation. Like, for example, Salatul Janazah. When someone dies in our community, it is an obligation upon the entire community that at least some people has to pray the janazah for that Muslim. If no one prays his or her janazah, then the entire community is sinful and Allah will question them on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right? So, for certain people to take up that responsibility, to call the rest of humanity to al-khair, this is fardu kifaya. Some people from the Muslim Ummah has to undertake this responsibility. They have to, right? In every community there has to be people, and of course this refers to learning the religion and then explaining it to others, right? Every community, every family, you have to have, if you want to succeed, you have to have certain groups of people that take the responsibility of upholding the rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, following them first and foremost, and then teaching it to the rest of the group. Right? This is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. You have to call, يَدْعُون, make the da'wah to the people. Tell them about Islam, tell them about Tawheed, tell them about the Sunnah. And you have to command that which is good and forbid that which is evil. Certain people have to undertake this responsibility. Otherwise, that entire community is sinful in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And these are the people that are actually successful. Those who undertake this responsibility. Right? We all want success. The success that we look for are the degrees, the money, the good children, and this and that. But the success that Allah tells believers to look for is Jannah. So if you want the success in the Akhirah, then be from those who call others to that which is good. Be from those that command what is good and command and forbid what is evil. Like the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith in Bukhari, and probably everybody has heard this, that بَلِّغُ أَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey from me, even if it's just one verse. But of course you have to know the meaning and the proper context and everything. But the point is, the Prophet ﷺ is emphasizing this duty. Can you imagine if these Sahaba who were witnessing Jibreel alayhi salam coming down, reciting these ayat, and witnessing, sitting, walking, talking, hearing directly from the Prophet ﷺ, if they had held on to the ilm and never did anything, there would not be any Muslim on the face of this earth after that generation died. But they understood this responsibility. The Prophet ﷺ has passed away. It is now on our shoulders to carry his message. And they spread it far, east and west, north and south. Right? I mean, look at during the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu anhu, Islam spread all the way north, east, west, whatever it was. We are still enjoying the fruits of the da'wah of the Sahaba. That's the reality of life. Like the generations after them really didn't do much compared to the companions. And especially in our time, and of course we get closer to the Day of Judgment, the productivity of the generations will only decrease and decrease and decrease, right? So they understood this point very well. The obligation, the communal obligation, that certain people have to get up, and as Allah says, let there rise a group of people who's going to call to the khair, who's going to command what is good, who's going to forbid what is wrong, right? They call to this. Now, of course, we live in a time where the whole society, regardless of where you live, the culture that is popular right now, someone can do wrong. It doesn't matter. But if you point out that someone is doing wrong, you're the wrong person. This is how people have become, right? Let's say somebody's, I don't know, drinking alcohol, a fellow Muslim, and they're having like a huge party. They got bars in their house and this, and of course we all know there are unfortunately Muslims like that with that type of homes. And you go all of a sudden and say, brothers, sisters, what are you doing? You guys are Muslims. Why are you guys behaving this way? They'll look at you as the bad person, right? This is the nature of society today. Like, look at this case of homosexuality that has become widespread in the West. In all religions, this is forbidden. In the Old Testament, the story of Lut alayhi salam is there. The Jews know it, the Christians know it, and of course we as Muslims know it from the Quran. Yet, this concept of commanding good and forbidding evil is being erased from society. And the Prophet ﷺ warned us that this would happen as we get closer and closer to Ayyamud Dajjal, the days of Al-Masih al-Dajjal, right? So it's going to happen, and we see corruptions being, spreading far and wide, becoming worse and worse. 10 years ago, life was much more honest and easier than now. And Allah knows best, 10 years from today, we'll see things, we'll be like, oh my God, how is this happening? Right? Like even when I was growing up in these countries, you could never imagine in your wildest imagination that one day I'm going to grow up and it's all of a sudden legal for a man to marry a man and a woman to marry a woman. I grew up in this society. No one dared to even talk. They knew that this was shameful, right? But even in this society, times have changed. This is what people say. So due to the times changing, start sinning more. This is basically what they're saying. But as Muslims, we have to understand this importance, that it is a communal obligation. You can't ignore making da'wah to the khair. You can't ignore commanding the good. You can't ignore forbidding the evil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in another ayah in the Quran that رُسُلًا مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَى اللَّهِ حُجَّةٌ بَعْدَ الرُّسُلِ. The job of the messengers, we know they came to teach Tawheed, right? This is their number one duty. But they also came to end corruption. Like, look at all the corruptions that were existing during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. From cheating, from from economic cheating, family structure being messed up. Everything was fixed in the time of every prophet and messenger. They came with the call to Tawheed. Of course, Tawheed should naturally fix your society and your family. That's what it's for. If you truly understand what it means to worship Allah alone and refrain from all types of shirk, it should bring about a change in your own life, in your own family, in your own community, right? So the call to ending corruption is a natural follow-up to the call to Tawheed. So Allah says that we sent messengers as bringers of good news and as warners. They did both things. They didn't just tell people, Jannah, Jannah, everything is flowery, oh yes, nice. But they also warned the people. If you don't stay away from what's forbidden for you, then Jahannam awaits you. Right? A lot of times people, we tend to get irritated if we hear, or upset if we hear things about Jahannam. But this is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laid out the Quran. When He talks about Jannah, immediately He says something about Jahannam. Or if He starts talking about Jahannam, immediately He talks about Jannah, giving us a clear picture of what these two roads are. That there's a road to Jannah, and there's of course millions of roads that can lead you to Jahannam, right? It gives us a clear understanding so that we're not confused. Allah is giving us the good news as well as warning us of what happens if you disobey Him. Obey Him, Jannah awaits you. Disobey Him, then of course the fire is your abode. So the prophets and messengers, they did the same thing. They came as a giver of glad tidings. They came to warn the people, and so that they will have no argument. The reason being that لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَى اللَّهِ حُجَّةٌ بَعْدَ الرُّسُلِ, so that mankind has no argument left in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one can come on the Day of Judgment and say, hey Allah, I don't know what was right and wrong. A messenger came to you, a book was sent to you, you had your resources. You chose not to follow those resources. So it's because of this reason, from Allah's wisdom, He sent prophets and messengers. He sent down these different books to different times and different people, and the final one being the Quran. So that everyone from His creation is clear about the message, is clear about what is right, clear about what is wrong. You don't have any excuses on the Day of Judgment that Allah did not give you the tools. Just like you go to school, there's good teachers and there are bad teachers. I'm not talking about good students and bad students. Of course, there's a lot more of those, right? But I'm talking about good and bad teachers. Who's a good teacher? Regardless of their situation, their salary, and of course in America, everybody complains, right? The school system, teachers get the least paid among all Western countries. But whatever the case, this is the situation here. But the teachers still, they take their time. They do diligent work, right? They prepare the students. They provide the supplies. They provide the reading material. They'll work extra hard. If one student is kind of failing in his class, the good teacher works with that student because that teacher, he or she truly cares for that student. But the bad teacher doesn't care, comes, homework, no homework. And there are teachers like that. Then they lose their license and this and that. So many things happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, is the best of teachers. He is the one who gives us this knowledge. He is Al-Alim, the all-knowing, and then He sends down this knowledge in doses and gives. So of course, if a human being that is classified as a good teacher can work so hard and provide all these resources, then what about Allah? Rabbul Alameen, definitely, the way He teaches or the resources that He provides is, you can't obviously compare it to anything. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. There's no comparison to Allah, right? So you have to think this, that Allah did not leave us in a dark path, in a confused path. It's us, if we find ourselves confused, if we find ourselves going astray, that is something wrong with us, our understanding, our desires. But Allah has given us the resources right in front of us to rectify our affairs, to come back to the straight path. But even that, when someone is losing track of his self or herself, if there is no one to remind that person, if there is no one to call him or her to the goodness, if there is no one to remind him about what is good and about what is wrong, how will that human being wake up? You look at your own children. If you let them be, they'll go crazy. Right? No matter how good your son or daughter is, if you do not look after them, mom and dad are not looking, let's just do whatever we can, right? All kids are like this, right? The parents have to constantly check up, constantly tell them what's good, constantly tell them what's bad. You have to repeat over and over again, right? You tell your son or daughter, don't do this, you're going to get in trouble. 2 hours later, you're saying the same thing. Another hour later, you're saying the same thing. But to be a good parent, we have to keep repeating like parents. The day you give up, that's it. You lost your kids for good. You can't give up. Look at Nuh alayhi salam, till the very last moment. The flood, the water is rising. Even though Allah said your son is lost, but he's a father after all. He has that fatherly natural love for his son. Till that very last moment he was calling his son. Just get on the boat. Say La ilaha illallah. I can help you. But of course the son didn't listen. He died as a kafir and will burn in hellfire through eternity. He got destroyed with all the mushrikun. So that teaches us something. That the nature of a parent should be, regardless of what happens to your children, how old they get, keep calling them to Islam. Keep calling them to the sunnah that you're aware of, right? You have to do this. This is an obligation upon all parents, all fathers and mothers. But the point is, if they never make the effort to command the good and forbid the evil, it's gone, right? This is the nature of human beings. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the companions. Like he said in another ayah in Surah Ali Imran, regarding the companions, and of course in describing the companions, he also describes those who follow them, that they are also blessed in this manner. That kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You are the best of the people to be raised up, to be brought out from mankind. Talking to the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. And one of the number one qualities is that you command what is good and you forbid what is evil. That's why you're the best of the people to be raised up. This is an attribute of Islam, an attribute of the Muslims. That in order to be from the best of the people, you have to command what is good, you have to forbid what is evil. People just don't understand this, unfortunately, in our generation. And in the future, Allah knows best, it will only get worse and worse. Like a lot of times, the sisters, inshallah, if you can keep it down. So, this is something that is a duty upon the Muslims. We have to lead by example, right? Look at all these things that we find in this Western society. You have Christian organizations in America and elsewhere. They're fighting drugs. They're opening up rehab centers to help people, right? They have counseling available for those suffering from abuse and this and that. Why aren't the Muslims doing the same things? When Allah has obligated us first and foremost to be doing these type of things. But the Muslims are sleeping, right? This is what happens. I know this is a little far-fetched, but let's focus on something that is smaller in your daily life, right? Problems arise in the family. There are situations where you find Muslim families my cousin is beating his wife. It's okay, it's not my problem. I'll just stay out of it. I'll also tell my wife, hey, listen, if my cousin calls, just close your ears, close your mouth. It's none of our business. Why? This is the dhulm happening in my own family. I can't speak up. I can't explain, right? Or something is happening wrong in the community. People look at it, they close their eyes. I just came to pray, I'm going back home and going back to sleep. This is not the way to live as a Muslim, and this is sinful. A Muslim cannot, that concept of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, this is not from Islam, right? Life doesn't work that way. That I didn't see anything, I'm not going to say anything, not my business, everything will be fine. It just doesn't work that way. You have to speak up. You have to command what is good, you have to forbid what is evil. You have to participate in your own family life, you have to participate in your communal life, so on and so forth. Right? Otherwise it brings destruction. And this is what we see. We see this clearly, that disobeying this command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not bring peace in any Muslim family, nor a single Muslim community. Show me one Muslim family on the face of this earth where they do not remind each other about good and evil and they're happy. It does not exist. Show me one Muslim community on the face of this earth where the community members do not tell each other what is good and bad, that they're in peace. It does not happen. It is impossible, because Allah did not make us that way. You have to be aware of what is good, and certain groups of people have to stand up, command what is good and forbid what is evil. Right? Otherwise, we find ourselves, the society is destroyed as a whole. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Bani Israel. That لُعِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ عَلَى لِسَانِ دَاوُدَ وَعِيسَى بْنِ مَرْيَمَ. Isa ibn Maryam. Bani Israel is cursed by the tongue of Dawood alayhi salam and Isa ibn Maryam. They were cursed. Those who disbelieved from Bani Israel, they have been cursed by Dawood. They have been cursed by the Anbiya that were sent to them, because of the amount of disbelief and disobedience that they had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they have been cursed. ذَلِكَ بِمَا عَصَوا وَكَانُوا يَعْتَدُونَ. That is because they disobeyed Allah and they were ever transgressing the limits of Allah. That's why they were cursed by the prophets and messengers that were sent to them. They were continuously disobeying Allah, continuously transgressing the limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, playing games. And then Allah says in the next verse, this is in Surah Ma'idah, that كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه. They were what did they used to do or not do? They did not ever used to tell one another about what is forbidden. And they would just look the other way when one of them was sinning. They didn't call each other to the good and forbid the evil upon one another. Right? لَبِئْسَ مَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. What an evil thing that they used to do. This is one of the reasons why Allah destroyed those people from Bani Israel. And we are not different. Again, these stories are repeated over and over in the Quran, not as just fairy tales that we hear and we tell our children and that's it, right? They're there for lessons that we don't repeat their mistakes. So Bani Israel has been cursed by Allah, been cursed by the angels, been cursed by the Anbiya, because they never used to command the good and forbid the evil. Like what happened? When Musa alayhi salam is looking for the promised land, right? What did the Jews say? Idhab anta wa rabbuk. You and your Lord, you go fix it for us, we'll enjoy it. This is how they talked with him. They said, what's wrong with you people? You were enslaved by Fir'aun for hundreds of years. Allah shows you a super miracle that the sea parted for you. You got saved, right? And then you're saying, and of course Musa a.s. goes to talk to Allah for a few days. It comes back that they're worshipping a golden calf. Then again, no, you and your Lord, you guys go fight. You guys go fight the evil, and once you gain victory, we'll enjoy it. This is very similar to what many Muslims do today. No, 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 it's the sheikh and the imam's job. Let them do all the khair. I'm going to sit around. When the good is all done, I'm going to come and enjoy it. Life does not work that way. Right? A sheikh or an imam or a person, the ulama, can't do anything by themselves. Look at all these Muslim countries over the past 6, 7, 8 years that have been destroyed. The scholars in these countries were telling the people what to do. We're telling the people, just stop following these things. Your country is going to be destroyed. The ulama can see what we can't, the average Joe can't see. But people were saying, scholars for dollars, American puppets, British puppets. Look at Libya, look at Egypt, look at Tunis, look at Yemen, look at Syria, look at Iraq. We can just go look at. Countries completely destroyed. But the scholars were telling the people what to do and what not to do, right? But people didn't listen, right? So this is the situation that we have to understand, that we cannot be like Bani Israel. That okay, let the shuyukh, let the ulama, let the imams, let them handle it, we'll just sit back and relax. This is an obligation upon every Muslim. You see wrong in front of you, you have to say something. If you don't know what to do, get someone who knows what to do. Don't make the matter worse, right? Refrain from adding more spice to or more fuel to the fire. Don't do that. Get someone who is qualified or knows better than you and can do it better in a better way. So, like the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith in Sahih Muslim, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, he narrated this hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi. Whoever among you sees an evil, then change it with your own hand. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ. But if you are not able to change something with your own hand, فَبِلِسَانِهِ. Then with your tongue, meaning speak up against that wrong that you just saw. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ. You don't have the ability to even do that. Then فَبِقَلْبِهِ. At least hate that evil in your heart and remove yourself from that environment. Right? وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And that is the weakest level of faith. So let's give an example. Let's say, because this hadith is based on authority, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever among you sees an evil, you change it with your own hands. You see a crime happening, forget crime. Let's say somebody's speeding. We're not cops. We can't stop him with our own hands and write a speeding ticket. We don't have that authority. The police stops that reckless driver, gives him a ticket, whatever it is. He stops that evil with his own hands because he has that ability. Now let's say it's one of the brothers. Even if it's the imam making a wrong U-turn. Right? You tell the person, you have the ability to do that. Hey, don't drive recklessly. You just disobeyed a traffic law. Whatever may be the case. That's your obligation. Because we're human beings. Sometimes we don't realize what we're doing. Right? So, you have the ability to speak, so you say that. Now, the weakest thing, somebody's doing ma'siyah in front of you, sinning away. You can't stop it. You can't speak against it. The lowest level of faith is at least you hate it in your heart and you remove yourself. Because if you truly hate something in your heart, you will not be able to tolerate sitting there. If you sit there for hours while people, let's say there's a whole music festival going on, and you sit there watching the people, and you say, no, I know music is haram. I didn't participate, I didn't dance, I didn't sing the lyrics either. I just sat there. If you truly hate it, your heart would not be able to take sitting there for the 2 hours that you were there. You have to remove yourself. Umar radiallahu anhu, during his time, 3 people were brought to him. 3 men were brought to him that they were guilty of drinking. So Umar lashed them, the lashing that the Sharia says, 40 times. 2 of them were drinking. The 3rd one was not drinking. Umar still gave him 20 lashes. And he said, why are you lashing me? I never touched alcohol in my life. Umar said, you were sitting with these 2 and you did not tell them, ittaqillah. You said nothing. You just sat there and looked at them. So Umar said, I have to lash you half of the times. This is the law of Islam. This is what it means that you command the good and you forbid the evil. Right? Muslim communities and families get destroyed because no one wants to say anything. What's going to happen? Your brother's going to say, oh, who do you think you are? You're a sheikh? Why are you telling me what's halal and haram? But we're Muslims. Whatever is haram for a sheikh is also haram for you. There's no class like in Christianity and Judaism. Rabbis belong to a separate class of human beings. That doesn't exist in Islam. Every human being, every Muslim is equal. No one is above the other except illa bit taqwa. Except with taqwa. His level of commitment to Islam. That's it. Every single person is equal. Right? And Allah gave us certain rules to follow. Some people have authority over others. Right? The Imam has authority over his congregation. The father and mother have authority over their children. The husband has authority over his wife. So on and so forth. Certain people have been given authority over other people. This is from Allah's rules and regulations. But in terms of spirituality or the reward in the akhirah, everybody's equal. The levels of up and down, it varies from person to person by their commitment, by their level of taqwa. Right? So we have to remember this, that people don't command the good and forbid the evil. And that is what is killing the Muslim ummah. That's killing the society. Right? Like, for example, like when people speak up, people, different people, let's say if you're a doctor, you see a fellow doctor doing malpractice intentionally. If you don't speak up, you're also guilty. You have witnessed this doctor cheating or doing something, whatever may be the case, right? And this is how the world works. If somebody is robbing the bank, and you open the doors for them, or let's say you're the driver. You're not the one with the gun walking in, this and that. You're just giving a ride to the robbers to and from the bank. You're equally guilty. You get arrested too, right? You are aiding the crime. Someone is committing a crime and you do nothing. You are guilty. This is how dunya crimes work. So what about religious crimes? Right? Whenever the shaitan tells you, no, it's none of my business, remind yourself with dunya examples. If no one tolerates these things regarding dunya issues, then how can Allah tolerate things regarding religious issues? Right? So everyone, as you can see, from the community of the Prophet ﷺ, everyone was involved in whatever capacity they had. Abu Bakr and Umar were far more involved than the companions whose names we don't even know. Right? Many hadith, a man came and asked, or a man did this, a woman did this. We don't even know those companions' names, but they're from Ahlul Jannah. The bigger companions, we know their names. The smaller companions, we don't know their names, but they all participated. They were all involved as a group, as a community. They all commanded the good and forbade the evil upon one another. And that's why Allah gave them success. You look at when people, they criticize, if any country has the religious police, or they criticize, and this is something, it is very, very dangerous. Forget the religious police. There's also people from among the Muslims. Wallah, this is really saddening. They laugh and they get happy if they ever read or hear about a sheikh committing a crime. Where's his religion now? Such a religious man. Ha 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 ha. You should be crying, not boasting, right? That is a severe disease in many Muslims. And some people, they live life, they want to break the one who is religious. That is a shaitan and nothing but a shaitan. There's no other way to put it. How can you as a human being wish evil for somebody and you rejoice at the sight of someone falling into sin and breaking? Right? So this is hypocrisy. This is severe hypocrisy of the heart. that they love to see religious people falling into sin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran regarding the munafiqun, that al-munafiquna wal-munafiqat, the hypocrite men and the hypocrite women, right? Ba'duhum min ba'd, they help one another. Hypocrite men and women, they help one another. That ya'amuruna bil munkar, they command what is evil. They help each other fall into evil. Like, let's say there's a masjid, all right? There's a masjid. This belongs to Allah. It's anyone who does something, you pick up a piece of paper from the carpet inside the masjid, you put it in the trash, Allah will reward you. Guaranteed. You do it sincerely, Allah will reward you. You don't have to wait for anyone to tell you, right? What is the dalil for this? Look at the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim and others. The hadith mentions that there used to be an African woman who used to clean the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She died in the night time. The Sahaba washed her, buried her, prayed janazah and everything. They didn't want to disturb the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's sleep because she died at night time. And it's from the Sunnah, you rush to bury the deceased, right? You don't delay it. Unless you're forced, like living in these countries, they take like a whole day to even release the body sometimes from the hospitals, right? This is not in our power. But when you have the means, you rush to bury the deceased. So they buried her. In the morning, the Prophet ﷺ found out, and he was angry at his companions. Why didn't you wake me up? Because the Sahaba thought, and the hadith does not even mention her name. We don't know this woman's name. They thought this is just an insignificant person, just a servant, a maid, like a maid coming, cleaning the masjid. She died, we did, whatever it was. The Prophet ﷺ, subhanallah, went to the graveyard and offered a salatul janazah for her, to show us how important it is to take care of the house of Allah. Till the day of resurrection, no human being will know her name, but we know for sure she is from Ahlul Jannah. Just cleaning the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? She wasn't involved in any important decision making, just cleaning. That's it. So you look at something like this, regardless of who's in the masjid. This is a masjid, I'll clean, I'll not clean, whatever may be the case. But then you'll have people, just like these munafiqun, that they ya'muruna bil munkar. They command one another. The hypocrite men and women, they help each other by commanding evil upon one another. Somebody will come, you want to clean the masjid? Hey, we don't really like that guy. Don't clean the masjid now. Let that guy leave, then we'll clean the masjid. Subhanallah, what's wrong with you? This is how you think of Allah's house? And these things happen. Happens here, right? We can't sugarcoat the reality, but this is hypocrisy. Allah clearly says hypocrites behave this way, not believers, right? You have to respect Allah's house because it's Allah's house. My friend's the Imam or my enemy's the Imam, I don't care. It's still Allah's house. I have certain obligations towards that house because it belongs to Allah, not my personal property, right? That's what's missing in the ummah today. So many places, communities breaking apart, falling apart, because they don't command the good and forbid the evil upon one another. You look at, and we'll end with this before taking questions. Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he said in a hadith, that's a Hasan hadith in a Tirmidhi, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, I swear by the one in whose hand is my soul, that لَتَأْمُرُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that if you must enjoin what is good. You must, this is an obligation, right? وَلَتَنْهَوُنَّ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and you must forbid what is evil. You must do these two things. Or أَوْ لَيُوشِكَنَّ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَبْعَثَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِقَابًا مِّنْهُ. If you do not do this, then be aware Allah's punishment will befall you. Allah's punishment will fall on you if you do not command the good and forbid the evil. You have to do this. And when that happens, ثُمَّ تَدْعُونَهُ فَلَا يُسْتَجَابُ لَكُمْ. When the punishment of Allah comes, you can make all the dua to Allah you want, but Allah will not respond to your dua. What a severe warning. That if the Muslims stop commanding what is good, forbidding what is evil, Allah will strike them with punishments. And when that punishment comes, your du'as will not be answered by Allah. All you have to do is just open your eyes and open your ears and look at the ummah today. We are suffering the consequences of this hadith. Right? We can openly say this. Like you find people, like everywhere, like in every place, every profession, there's bad people, there's good people. Nowadays, as we get closer to the end of times, the Prophet ﷺ has warned us in numerous ahadith that you will have, a time will come, again narrated by Hudayfa, collected in Bukhari, that there will be a time when there will be du'atun abwabi jahannam, that there will be callers, teachers of the religion, who will call you to the doors of Jahannam. You think that this person's a shaykh or an imam, but he's teaching you the wrong thing that leads you to Jahannam. This is a hadith in Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ prophesies that a time will come like that, right? But what happens today, if a shaykh says something weird, it's a pure contradiction of the Quran and Sunnah. Other shuyukh, other tullab, they correct that person. Oh no, hey, listen, don't think too big of yourself. He's a shaykh too. But the Prophet ﷺ made it very clear. There will be religious speakers who will call you to Jahannam. They will call you away from my sunnah, away from Siratul Mustaqim. Right? Speaking our language. All these descriptions in that hadith that the Prophet ﷺ gave. Right? So this is something that we have to remember. That a doctor knows when a doctor is doing malpractice. An engineer knows when a civil engineer will know when another civil engineer is cheating in that project, right? Everybody knows their profession. So when you have fake sheikhs, right? Another sheikh or a talib or an alim will know that this person is teaching the wrong aqeedah. This person is teaching shirk and bid'ah or kufr concepts, right? This is a responsibility. Throughout history, the ulama have done this. Like look at Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And we know he lived in Iraq. And Iraq at that time until today, predominantly consists of the Rawafid, the Rafidi Shia. Right? The extreme Shia group. Right? Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he said, if anyone has doubts about whether the Shia is a kafir or not, has himself committed kufr, has himself committed an act of disbelief. This is Abu Hanifa's own statement, living in Iraq at that time, surrounded by the Rafidi people. Right? The Rafidis are the Ithna Ashariya like you have in Iran. They're the ones who curse the companions. They're the ones who call our mother Aisha a whore and things like that. Right? They disbelieve in the Quran. They say the Mahdi will bring the real Quran, this is the fake Quran. So that's the Ithna Ashariya, right? This is the sect of the Shia that's there. If someone is confused if these people are kuffar or not, himself has committed kufr. Because how can you be a Muslim if you reject the Quran? You're going around saying, this is not the real Quran. The Mahdi is hiding in a cave in Samura. He's there for the past 1,000 years. When the time is right, he's going to come out with the real Quran. How can you say this about the Quran? Right? How can you be Muslim believing this type of things, right? But that's just one example. Like, look, and we have so many people who even claim to be Sunnis, spreading out weird ideas and things, right? Like recently, I was going to end with this hadith anyways, because this is a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. Our mother Zainab, radiallahu anha, when the Prophet ﷺ came and visited her, was spending time with her that day. He was sleeping and then he woke up. He came into her house full of fear, shaking, trembling. So his wife, of course, like any loving wife would do, calmed him down, gave him comfort, what's happening. And he said, La ilaha illallah, because of what he had seen. He is so afraid. The first thing he said, La ilaha illallah. There's no deity worthy of worship except Allah. Waylun lil Arab min sharri qad iqtarab. Waylun lil Arab. Destruction upon the Arabs for the great evil that is fast approaching them. Destruction is upon the Arabs because of the evil that I have seen that is fast approaching them. And this is the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. So then he said, فتح اليوم من ردم يأجوج ومأجوج مثل هذه وحلق بإصبعه الإبهام والتي تليها. So then he said what dream he had seen. He told Zainab that today in the cave of Ya'juj and Ma'juj a hole like this has been opened. And then he took his thumb and index finger and made a circle. A little hole like this has been opened up. He is so afraid of what's going to happen to the ummah. And recently, just this past week, a famous American sheikh, he said Ya'juj and Ma'juj are zombies. They're not real. Because science cannot understand for 4,000 or 5,000 years a group of people are going to be stuck behind a wall. Where is this wall? We can't see it. Geology doesn't say it. Science doesn't say it. This is the reality of the world we live in today. Doesn't matter if he graduated from Medina University or what university. When you talk like this, there is something wrong with you, right? So we have to point this out. Allah revealed in the Quran in Surah Al-Kahf the story of Dhul Qarnayn, locking up Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And this is a hadith. So how can you say this is not real? Because science cannot find that wall, which is lasting for 4,000 or 5,000 years. We have done geography. We have seen modern civilization. Where is it? We can't see it, so it doesn't exist. This is horrible, these type of statements, right? So we have to be very careful that someone might go to YouTube. No, 1 million people watch his lectures. Let me watch it too. Because a lot of time that's what it is. That you go watch somebody's lecture because 2 of your friends said to do it. You just want to fit right in, not knowing what this person is actually saying. Because the person lacks that knowledge, right? It can happen. It's a dangerous world we live in, a world of confusion. So it is an obligation upon the Muslims who are aware, bi'idhnillah, that they command what is good and forbid what is evil. Otherwise, society will be lost. People will be confused. They'll turn away from Allah, so on and so forth, right? So it starts from your house, your family, your community, and the whole ummah itself. So we have about 15 minutes for the adhan, so we'll take the questions. And sisters, as usual, you send the questions and write them and send them, inshallah. Go ahead. Yeah, Mir, go ahead.
So, I have a question about how you speak against the evil and speak for the good. So if in some places, that if you speak for the good, even to the Muslims, they will harm you. Like such as the mushriks in other countries. Like if you try to say something good, say that this is wrong, they will hurt you. So do you have an excuse to not speak?
Our young brother is asking that sometimes when you try to say the right thing, maybe the mushrikun or bad Muslims might harm you. What do you do at that moment? A lot of times that fear is a hypothetical fear. It doesn't really exist, right? So you have to make sure that the fear is real, right? The fear is real. It's not just shaitan whispering in your ears to keep you lazy and to keep you away from doing what is good, right? So you have to first make sure of that. And then what type of harm is it? Let's say you're in high school. Allah forbid you have a Muslim in your class or whatever may be the case. You see him go into the cafeteria, eating pork. All right, let's just give an example, right? And you're sitting, no, you need to tell him, hey, what are you doing? Stop eating this. You know it's haram. What's the fear? He'll never talk to you. He'll stay away from you. This is not a fear that you should be afraid of, right? It has to be an actual existing physical harm, right? Then you can say, okay, I don't have the ability. I'll just stay quiet and remove myself from the situation if the harm is real, right? So I think you want to elaborate more. Go ahead.
I was referring to like other mosques, where if someone is teaching something wrong,
Yeah.
or if the sheikh is singing, or like or
Yeah. No, that's okay. So he's asking about other masajid, like if he went to a masjid where maybe the sheikh is singing, what can he do? Well, being the age that you are, 15, 16 years old, if Allah forbid you're in that type of situation, just don't go to that masjid anymore. Right? That's the best that you can do at this age, right? But alhamdulillah, you know what is right. You make dua to Allah, may Allah guide these people, and may Allah protect me, and then you remove yourself from that situation, right? But in certain situations, they are very violent, right? I remember it was about 2-3 years ago. It was all over the news in a wrong way. And a woman in Afghanistan, she was burned to death. The Western media said, in Afghanistan, a woman was burned to death, making it seem like as if women are being tortured there all the time. But then the real news was, she saw some people in front of a masjid, whatever it was, they were making dua to the dead. And this woman said, this is shirk. They set her on fire. That's the reality. That's the true story. This is a woman surrounded by men who are, making shirk, but she had the courage to say this. For sure, inshallah ta'ala, she will be in Jannah, right? Inshallah, she was sincere. Otherwise, she's not going to go and, do something like this in that type of situation. And she was burned to death, like a shahida, inshallah, right? So, certain things will happen. No one's going to do that to you, inshallah, in America. Don't worry about it. Right? But certain places are like that, right? Like even, there are so many places we would not be able to talk about La ilaha illallah directly, right? Or let's say you go to a place when they're doing the mawlid. If you go there and start saying the mawlid is bid'ah, they'll beat you to death. At that moment, you really can't do anything. You just stay away from there, right? So you make the judgment call. If it's really going to be physically harmful for me, there's no fault on you, that you just keep quiet and just slowly walk away, right? If it's an imminent threat that exists. Sure.
So another question I have is, my cousin who lives in another country tried to correct.
You don't have to mention names. Just say somebody I know. Yeah. Okay.
So he tried to correct many masjids, like in my heritage country.
Yeah.
And he was being kicked out of every single masjid, because he was trying to correct it.
Yeah.
So say that he supposedly in his community there isn't any masjid he could go to. Where should he go to for Friday prayer?
No, he has to make best of whatever he is available, right? So, like this is the thing, like let's say if you're stuck in a town where there's no other masjid except for the masjid that is filled with bid'ah and shirk. You just go offer your Friday prayers and you leave. You offer your salah and you leave, right? There's no other choice. You have no other choice. There's nothing you can do, right? And then you work, because that is also one of the meanings of hijrah, as Imam Malik said. That you move away from places of bid'ah and go to places that are more welcoming to the sunnah. It can be within the same country, within the same city, right? This is an obligation upon a Muslim. I cannot freely practice my religion here. I have to move to a different area where I can freely practice, right? So this is a rule, that if you are able to do so, you move away so that you can be closer to a masjid that inshallah ta'ala teaches based on the correct, with the book and the sunnah, and then you be part of that, right? And be involved. But if you're just staying for years and years and years, eventually you'll see you are changing too. Because a human can only fight for so long. You're going to get burnt out, and then you give in, right? So prevent yourself from doing that. Yeah, go ahead, brother. Yeah. Or the kids, just keep it down for a little bit.
You said to offer your salah in such masjid, to do it in Jama'ah or individually?
The ruling is, you can pray in any masjid your salah is accepted in any masjid out there, all right? Except for a masjid that has a grave inside it. That is the only masjid, meaning a shrine exists there, right? We can't even call it a masjid, right? That is the only place where you're not allowed to go and pray. You can't. But if it's a masjid, let's say, for example, let's say this Mawlid issue. There's a masjid near my place. I go there for salah. When they're doing the Mawlid, I'm not there. I don't even show up, right? That's how you have to be. The only restriction is that if there is a grave inside the masjid, you cannot pray in that masjid. You cannot. And there are places in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, areas where two people are fanning the grave non-stop and people are coming into the masjid and praying. So you have to stay away from those places because that's literally they're worshipping that dead person that's inside the masjid, right?
Except the Prophet masjid.
No, that's different. That's completely different. Brother Shakir raises a good point. The Prophet's masjid, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Masjid al-Nabawi, this is not the case. Why? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died in the lap of Aisha radiallahu anha, as we know from the hadith in Bukhari and others. The Shari'i rule from the very beginning to, he was the last one when, inshallah, when Isa alayhi salam comes down. Prophets and messengers have to be buried at the exact spot they died. That's the rule from Allah. So he died on Aisha's lap. Aisha's apartment was basically his graveyard. So she left and he was buried right there. That grave was there. Masjid al-Nabawi during that time is not like this glamorous. Millions and billions of Muslims increased with time. The masjid has to expand. The grave was there from long before. Do you see? This is the difference between the Prophet's grave and other graves where people build a masjid on top of the qabr. Why did you do this? From day one, you built the masjid on top of the qabr. This is a place of shirk, right? And also, secondly, the Prophet's grave, alhamdulillah, they have like 7 thick doors. They tried their best, right? And this was expanded during one of the leaders' time, long ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It started expanding in that direction, right? So nowadays you find really thick doors. They tried to separate it and make it a completely different area as much as possible, right? Because the grave was there from before. That's where the Prophet ﷺ died. Then later, as the Muslims increased, the masjid had to be expanded. There was no other choice, right? So this is completely different from those who build a masjid on top of a grave.
If somebody has a dawa and he got killed, is he called shaheed? If he called shaheed, he will go to the Jannah without Yawm al-Hisab.
So the brother is asking about if someone got killed, can we say that so and so is a shaheed and he'll go to Jannah without any type of hisab? The ruling on anything like this, let's say a person, he died defending Islam, defending the Muslim property, Muslim land, a sincere mujahid, right? Not the one who blows himself up and causes more trouble for Islam. That's not a mujahid, right? So the one who made sincere jihad and he died. The rule is that we say, Insha'Allah, he is a shaheed, right? A woman died during delivery. This is the hadith. She is, Insha'Allah, a shaheeda. A man or woman died drowning. A man or woman died with a building collapsing on them, right? A man or woman died burning to death, right? These are the different levels of shuhada. The highest is the mujahid, then the others. Or a person got killed defending his life, his honor, his family, his property, right? Is also a shaheed. All of this, if someone were to be killed in one of these manners, what we're supposed to say is, Insha'Allah, fulan or fulana is a shaheed or shaheeda, right? What in Muslim countries they do, they go overboard. Shaheed fulan. No. This is not from the sunnah. We don't do that, right? We don't know because Allah knows best what type of Muslim he really was. We don't know his inside, but we say, Insha'Allah, he is a shaheed or she is a shaheeda. Right? This is the balance. You have a question, brother?
I have a question, Imam,
Yeah.
regarding the Shaheed.
Yeah.
Now, what if he's a genuine Shaheed, but he owes money to people when he was Shaheed?
Yeah, that's something that if those who used to obtain it, I mean, those who were scheduled to receive the loan back, they can forgive him, of course, that's fine. Otherwise, of course, we know from the Sunnah, the established principle is if someone is leaving behind debt, then his family members would cover that, right? So that would still apply, inshallah ta'ala, right, to the best of their ability. But, I mean, if you think about it, a genuine, merciful Muslim might sincerely forgive. And of course, anyone, this is the ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah, you have a loan, someone took a loan from you, for genuine causes he could not repay it back, like death is one. If you forgive that, Allah raises your status on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So you are the winner, right? So you think of that way, and then inshallah ta'ala just forgive if you want, right? Yes, brother.
Yeah, so let's say I walk into a masjid for salat, and the Jamaat is about to finish, well, actually starts finished, and then at that point I saw another brother walking in, and obviously, should I wait for that person to finish his wuzu and ask him to perform a Jamaat separately, or is it preferred to have me pray by my own self?
All right, so the brother's asking about what if he comes late for prayer and he notices that the Salatul Jama'ah is already finished. Should he wait and make a separate Jama'ah with somebody else, or should he pray by himself? From the actions of the Sahaba themselves, for example, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and these are recorded in Sahih Muslim, in Abu Dawood and others, from the actions of the companions themselves, they didn't do that. They either prayed individually or they just went home. The rule is, if any masjid has an assigned imam, it is makruh to form a second, a third, a fourth. I mean, it's haram. That's the first thing. Like, you don't just, there's already a designated imam, right? Everybody knows that there's an assigned imam of that masjid. And then some people just wait, no, we'll make our second Jamaat, we'll make our third Jamaat. This is haram. What is makruh is, let's say the assigned imam's Jamaat is finished. It is still disliked that you come and form another Jamaat, because it causes disunity among Muslims. That there's another group forming. There's another group away from the imam forming, right? That this is something very much disliked, especially in our times when fitna is like this. That's how easy it is to spark fitna between Muslims. So really avoid that, because it gives wrong ideas to the people. Preserve the unity of the Muslim community, right? That's the hikmah of it, right? But what you see, like in back home countries, they'll see Dhuhr, I'll just attend the third Jamaat, the fourth Jamaat. That's a completely bid'ah concept, right? The reward, 25 or 27 times reward. This is with the only established Jama'ah, which is the first Jama'ah with the Imam. That's where that reward is, right? Of course, if you pray a Jama'ah in your house, you do have an elevated number of reward, but that specific number, 25 or 27, there's two hadith, times more reward, this is in the masjid with the established Imam. That's who that hadith applies to, right? So this is how you would keep the balance, inshallah.
No, I mean, if I just missed the salah,
Yeah.
and somebody praying already, can I join him to make a Jama'ah?
Well, that's a different type of situation, all right? Like maybe he himself was part of the Jama'ah. He came late, you're coming late, you're joining that original Jama'ah. This can be excused, no problem, right? All right, let's take a couple of questions from the sisters.
His brother has one.
Okay, all right, yeah. I wanted to, yeah.
A quick question I'd like to ask you that. We are always praying in Arabic. The Quran Nazil is the holy language in Arabic. But, for example, if someone wants to pray Fatiha not in Arabic, on his own language, on his mother tongue,
Yeah.
someone native in English or someone native in Bengali or Urdu or whatever, if he prayed and that on that translation instead of Arabic, is that jaiz?
Meaning the salah?
Salat or in the Quran, the reading the Quran.
Okay, so it's the question consists of two things. So the brother's asking someone who doesn't know any Arabic, Bengali, Urdu, English, whatever maybe his language, can he offer the salah in that translation? That's one question. And the second question is, can he read it with the translation? The first question, it is completely forbidden to pray salah in any other language other than Arabic. It is completely forbidden. Allah will not accept it from you, right? Because this is a salah. This is the rule of salah, right? Even you don't understand Surah Fatiha and other surah, no problem. You have to do it in the Arabic language, right? Now, reading translations, that's different, right? The reward, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that every harf, every letter in the Quran, the Hadith in Bukhari and others, every harf, reading every harf is 10 hasanat, is 10 hasanat. So when you say alif lam mim, right there you got inshallah 30 hasanat. That only applies to the Quran. The Quran is that which Allah spoke, which is Arabic. Even if you don't understand it, you want 10 hasanat for every letter, you read the Quran in Arabic, because that's the Quran. Now to understand it, you go read tafsir in your language. That's different. You will get a reward for seeking knowledge. And it's a must. You have to understand the Quran. So you go read the tafsir in Bengali, Urdu, English, whatever may be the case, right? That's completely fine. And you're supposed to do that so you understand what you're reading. Until you learn, if Allah gives the ability, you learn some Arabic or you become fluent. And even if you can't, at least you read the tafsir available in your own language that you speak, right? That's different. You get a reward for that. But the special reward, 10 hasanat for every letter, this only applies to the actual Quran, which is Arabic, right? So we have to be careful because the Quran is kalamullah, the speech of Allah. Allah spoke in Arabic. We don't say, I know nobody says it this way, but this is just, by mistake people might say this. Oh, I'm reading the Urdu Quran or the English Quran or the Farsi Quran. You can't say that. Quran is only one in Arabic. What you're supposed to say is, I'm reading the translation in my language, right? It's very important. You cannot call anything the Quran except for the Quran itself, right? Everything else is a translation in whatever language that you speak, right? Let me take the questions from the sisters. I haven't done it yet. If everything is predestined, what is the purpose of istikhara? Now, istikhara, salatul istikhara, is of course something from the sunnah that many people have abandoned. And EHT, in one of these Saturday lectures, I think a few months ago, the whole lecture was about how to do salatul istikhara. It's still on our masjid Facebook. Just go search for it. The lectures are always there. So you can go watch it, inshallah ta'ala. That's one part. The second thing is, even though everything is predestined, we don't know what our destiny is, right? You don't know. We have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the whole point of the istikhara. You're asking Allah, if it is good for me, and He already knows it, or if then make it happen. If it is bad for me, and He already knows it, then keep it away from me, right? So you're asking Allah to fulfill what is already known to Him. And you're asking Him to protect you, to guide you in the right direction, to protect your decision, right? So inshallah ta'ala, I advise the sister again to inshallah watch that lecture, and then this answer will become more clear. Now the second question is taking pictures haram? Again, the question is not clear, though, based on the way you're asking the question. Can we take pictures? You have a cell phone, you click, 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 click. There's nothing haram with this, right? You're capturing light image. This is a digital picture. You're keeping in your computer, you're keeping in your phone. This is all fine. Like you're snapping pictures, right? People take it. If you can avoid it, that's the best for you. But I also have to understand the situation of the people, right? Like me personally, I don't even do that, alhamdulillah. But this is something that you would want to build yourself up to. But if you're just snapping digital pictures, you're just keeping it on your phone. What is haram is if you print the pictures and you're hanging it in your house, putting it on the frame, and you're venerating these pictures, that's what is haram and not allowed in Islam. Only for identification, medical purposes are you allowed to do that. Like your driving license. You can't go there and say, like this, what happened once, subhanAllah, to a sister from Florida. Many years ago, I think this was like 6, 7, 8 years ago. She went to the court in Orlando. No, I am not going to open my face veil. The niqab is from my religion. I am not going to take a picture. I'm not going to show you my face. This, that was a huge commotion. It was all over the news, right? I'm sure if you Google search it, you'll find it. Florida woman refuses to take off niqab for driving license. search that on Google, you'll find it, right? This is a wrong understanding, right? Even if a woman is covering her face, it is the law in Sharia that someone can ask you to see your face to identify that you are that person. The dalil is in Sahih al-Bukhari. It's a long story. When one of the people were sending out a note to the Quraysh, to Mecca, and Umar radiallahu anhu had stopped the woman and said, take off your niqab, uncover your face so we can see who you are. So identification is different, right? Your passport, your driving license, when you go to the bank, if they want to see your face, making sure that you are the one taking the money from your account. This is all fine in Islam. Don't make a chaos about it, right? So this is completely understood and it's within the realm of Sharia. In fact, even when a woman goes to the court, the judge has the right for anything. The judge has the right to say, let me see your face, because her facial expressions will give out if she's lying or what she's doing. There's a story from the Salaf, from the early generations. A man was disputing with his wife. They went to the Shari court, and the Qadi said, take off your niqab. So the man said, you as the judge and these other people in the courtroom will see my wife's face? The judge said, yes, because I have to know that this is your wife. Who are you arguing about? I don't know who this woman is. He said, I take back my complaint. I don't want to divorce my wife. That's the type of ghira this man had. That's a Muslim man. That's a Muslim man, the one who gets hurt if other men are going to look at the features of his wife, right? So he said, I take back the complaint. I don't want to divorce my wife. I don't want all of you people to see my wife's face. It's fine, I'll be patient, right? But the point is, in Sharia, this is the rule, right? A lot of women sometimes don't understand this, and then they make a ruckus, and then they show up in the media, and so on and so forth. So taking pictures, going back to the original question, taking pictures, try to avoid them as much as you are able to, because again, why is it the case? Admiring yourself, standing in front of this camera, this goes against the humbleness that Allah has commanded. Right? So this just goes against the imperfection of that. So if you're able to avoid it, that's fine. Now you want to capture a scenario, you're here visiting, you're standing in front of a mountain, you're admiring this. Okay, no problem. You're there for a reason. You're admiring the beauty of Allah. You're just keeping a memory. But again, don't print it, distribute it, hang it on your walls, this, that, don't do it. You want to store it in your computer to see from time to time? Okay, inshallah, no problem, right? So this would be, as Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen has said. All right, so let's see, last couple of questions. Yeah, you didn't get a chance today. Go ahead.
Somebody else asked me to ask this question. And they asked me to ask it indirectly. I'm dying to ask it directly, but I was asked to ask it.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the etiquette of if I invite somebody to my place at a meal time and we're spending time talking politics or watching sports or what have you,
Yeah.
and the guest has no clue if meal will be served?
Okay, so the brother's asking about what's the adab of a Muslim that you invited somebody during a meal time, but for whatever reason you're talking to the guy for hours and hours and you're not offering something. This is from the adab of a Muslim. We look at from the actions of the Prophet ﷺ himself, the companions. When guests come, the guest has some rights over you. This is a hadith, right? The guest has rights over you. The host has some rights over the guest has rights over the host. The guest comes, what's the right of the guest? When you feed him, make sure you don't harm him health-wise. If he's not used to something, don't give it to him, this, that. But you give him some food. The right of the host is don't overstay and keep him away from his family, right? Sometimes it happens, somebody invites us for dinner. We're chatting there till 1 a.m. You're keeping this man away from his wife, and the sisters are keeping the wife away from the husband. You're not supposed to do this, right? Leave them be. You stay there for some time. This is the right of the host. This is, of course, if you're a resident. You're a traveler, that's different, right? You're a resident, local person got invited. That's the right of the host. But the guest is that you feed them, especially if somebody invites you to his house. Let's say we know this is lunchtime, right? This is common sense. You offer some food, this, that. This is from the adab of Islam. You have to understand these etiquettes and fulfill them, inshallah ta'ala, right? All right, inshallah. Any last question from the sisters? No? Any last question from the young brothers?
It's lunchtime and somebody just present the tea. That's it, biscuit.
Yeah, maybe that's all they had that day for the house. Just let it be, inshallah, right? You know?
Perfect timing.
Yeah. All right. Okay, one last question from Brother Zishan.
You were mentioning about when you is that a metaphorically? I mean, when our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we're talking about doing what you. And earlier you also mentioned Wailul Arab. Is he talking about nowadays? When I was listening to a few scholars and they were talking about the time is coming for that prophecy to fulfill, which is saying Wailul Arab. Whatever the Arabs are doing right now, I think it's going to come back to them very bad way. That's one. The other one is the Gog Magog that you were talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of the TVs that are coming up with the Sea of Galilee being, depleted, and when the next group would come in, they would see less and less, and eventually there will not be anything more, which is kind of happening since, I don't know, 80 years, 100 years, since the Jews had moved down to that area, where the Sea of Galilee is basically almost depleted. So according to that specific scholar, he was saying the Gog Magog or Yud Matuj are the Zionist nationalists, and Little Arab. Is that gonna happen now? So these are the two questions.
So the brother's asking about the issue of Ya'juj and Ma'juj and the hadith that I had mentioned, that Wailun lil Arab, because of the destruction is soon approaching. And then he talked about Ya'juj and Ma'juj, the hole in the cave being opened up. All right. So first of all, regarding Ya'juj and Ma'juj, like we said, it's mentioned in the Quran. These are actual people, Fasidun, two tribes that used to make a lot of mashakil on earth, and then Dhul Qarnayn locked them up in a place Allah knows best where, right? So we have to believe that. Allah clearly mentioned this in the Quran, right? And then we have these few hadith talking about it. And we also know that one of the signs, major signs of Yawm al-Qiyamah is that eventually Ya'juj and Ma'juj will come out. They will drink up the sea. People will flee from them. They won't be able to kill them. Isa alayhi salam will take the believers, flee to protection, to safety, then make dua to Allah. Then Allah will send down birds whose necks are like camels, right? And so on and so forth. And Allah will first give, before that happens, Allah will send worms that will eat at the necks of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and they'll die away. So the whole earth will be filled with their dead bodies. Then Allah sends these birds to carry these bodies and dump them in the sea to cleanse the smell of the dead bodies and this and that, to purify. So this is all mentioned in hadith, right? So it's a story from the Quran, and then of course we have a few hadith giving more details. These type of issues, it was firmly established in our Sunni Aqidah what it means, right? So you have to be very careful with these modern day interpretations, that a lot of times people get emotional. You're saying that you heard the scholar saying that the Ya'juj and Ma'juj are the Jews. I heard some people say Ya'juj and Ma'juj are the Chinese people. You know? Like they're small, they got small eyes. This is very racist interpretation. But it is what it is, unfortunately, right? This is what happens when people abandon the dalil, right? They start relying on their aql, their intellect. Human intellect is limited. When people start relying on their intellect over dalil, that's when they are really, calling destruction upon themselves. We can't do that. So whatever Allah has spoken about in the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ has spoken about, we leave it at that, right? Like, for example, the hadith. Scholars of the past did not understand it fully, like the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. A time will come and Allah has cursed those women who are dressed yet naked. Nobody knew. They never saw that. We of today, we know what this means. We see women wearing clothes, but they're still naked. You can see everything. But this did not exist 1,000 years ago, 1,400 years ago. But they said a time will come, yes, women, whatever they'll be wearing, but will still be naked. That's as much as they could say, right? So it's not something that the scholars of the past said, oh, maybe it's a metaphor. No, they believed in it. That this is true. We just haven't seen it, but this will happen. And now we are seeing it. So same thing. Ya'juj and Ma'juj, what they fully look like, where they are locked up, we don't know. But we have to believe in it. When that time comes, then of course the human beings that are alive then with Isa alayhi salam, they'll clearly see them, right? So we leave it at that. We don't go delve into all these, go too deep intellectually. You're just gonna, you're just opening up a whole Pandora's box, right? So save yourself the trouble and just stop where the text has stopped, right? Inshallah. Okay.